Hi, this is Derek Jordan. Welcome to the World Fusion Show, where we bring you the leading innovators in world fusion music. Today, I am delighted to bring you my guest, Dr. Dale Stuckenbruck, who is a multi-instrumentalist and plays some very unusual instruments, some of which I had never even heard of. He's a dedicated teacher, a classically trained virtuoso violinist, and his interests have taken him to Taiwan and beyond. Welcome, Dale Stuckenbruck, to the World Fusion Show.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
It's so great to have you. Dale, we're doing our first Skype interview today. Thank you so much for agreeing to be our Skype guinea pig.
Great to be a guinea pig.
Right. So now you're classically trained. On the violin, you have a doctorate in violin playing. And for most people, that would be more than enough to do. But clearly, you have an insatiable curiosity about many other instruments, including musical saw, theremin, erhu, Chinese fiddle, Dan bao, Vietnamese monochord, mandolin, and sitar. You play many, and probably more that I didn't list. But you have another interest that is really unusual. And we're going to talk about that first. And that is that you play instruments that you make from vegetables. And you were recently on the Conan O'Brien Show, where you blew his mind with your vegetable instruments. So tell me, what does your work mean to you about, and with working with all these vegetables?
Well, the great thing about vegetables is that they exist all over the world, and almost every human being eats them, but doesn't know what they sound like. And when you hear the sound, it changes your taste. It changes the idea that you know something so well, and yet you didn't know this other dimension about it. And to have people realize that about many things, about human beings around the world, and about music, and about anything that they assume they know, is so great to give another dimension and a further meaningful part of their existence.
Yeah, that's great. Now, you actually have a vegetable orchestra.
That's correct.
So tell us about what that is and what that's like, and what kind of response do you get when you perform?
Well, the fantastic thing is to see the eyes and the faces totally change from people walking by and on a stand where we're at a fair or something like that, and thinking they've seen a vegetable, and then suddenly they hear this. And somebody who's 100 years old, who's seen everything in their life, but not seen this before. So these reactions are really priceless and really wonderful.
That's great. You work with kids a lot, I know, too, right? They really enjoy it.
That's correct.
But adults as well seem to get in the action too, right?
Yes, and even kids that seem to only a year old, because they seem to have eaten their vegetables or know what a carrot is.
Yeah,
even that. Yeah.
And the carrot, you make carrot flutes, right? That's one of your prime instruments, right?
Yes, we make transfers and recorder type. So we make a bunch of different types.
Right,
yes.
Right. I love the carrot flute. But why don't we go to the video and watch and listen to some of these instruments, okay? Let's do that. All right, we're back. That's just great. I love it. So you were born in Germany, right? And a very musical family. What was it like growing up in your household in Germany?
Well, music was a part of our existence. We had house music often in our home monthly, and we'd have guests from the community, amateurs and some professional musicians would come and play in our home, and that's how I met my violin teacher. And it was a great thing because everyone's family who was there, everybody would play something and would play for each other and the newest things that we've learned. So it was a great way to experience music in the home, which is, I think, the most meaningful thing when it's intimate.
That's true. It's great. So one of the instruments you play is the musical saw. And your dad played it, I think, right? And your kids play it. And you play classical music on the saw. And you also play an instrument called the theremin, which is a electronic instrument played with your hands dancing in the air, as it were, not touching anything, right? And people may remember the sound of the theremin because in every science fiction movie where the UFO is landing, that's what you hear. You hear the theremin playing, yes. Okay? So we're going to actually go and listen to a couple of excerpts of you playing classical pieces, European classical music on the saw and on the theremin. All right? So can we go do that? Oh, before we go, just can you tell us a little bit about what it's like and why you're attracted to those instruments?
They are the most vocal instruments. They're almost more vocal than the voice because I never have to take a breath. I can play a line for a half hour. And it takes your breath away, literally, when you hear them because you spin this emotional, very direct, it goes directly into you when you play these instruments. And to have that continuousness of gorgeousness of a line and phrasing is so attractive.
I agree. And they just have a great sound, somewhat otherworldly. But let's give our audience a chance to check these out now. Thanks.
Okay.
you're going far beyond the world fusion concept here. I think we're talking cosmic fusion at this point, which is so fantastic, you know. So you have a great love also for Asian music, and you spent some time in Taiwan as a concertmaster for a Taiwanese orchestra, right? And you married a Korean pianist, and you play the Chinese fiddle known as the erhu, which is a very, well, pretty popular instrument, I think, throughout that region. But you also play the dan bao, which is a Vietnamese monochord, which I really didn't know anything about. It's pretty unknown instrument. So tell me about your connection to these Asian culture, Asian music, and these instruments.
Well, being in Taiwan in 1980 and being in the same building where the traditional Chinese orchestra rehearsed and being able to hear them, I heard these other sounds and that there are billions of people on the other side of the earth that I didn't really realize who have these tremendous traditions. To actually witness that started me off. Of course, the Korean music and traditions of Korean traditional music, their infectious rhythms and soulful expressions are just won me over. Then because I did this rock concert with real stones, and the Vietnamese have these amazing stones that sing, and I can't wait to get there to hear them myself. And I have a stone from Asia, from Japan, that rings unbelievably. And so in investigating Vietnamese music, I came around the dan bao, which was very much then it felt like I already knew it because of the saw and the theremin, that it just added that another dimension. And to play on only one string was really cool.
Yeah, no, it's a great instrument. I love the sound. Let's go to the video now and watch you play a Chinese folk song on your erhu, and then a Vietnamese folk song on your dan bao.
Thank you.
You're very good, obviously, at learning different styles of music that are pretty foreign to most of us. And you had an interesting experience when you were trying to learn Cuban music. If you could briefly share that story with us, that'd be great.
Yes, well, after getting my doctorate and saying to myself, well, there's nothing I can't play on the violin, and I'm so good, And then my friend said, do you want to do this gig with a Cuban group playing violin for a couple of weeks? And my schedule was free, and I said, that'd be great. And he said, man, you got the gig, so you just have to play for the guy. So I went there and played, and I thought I played perfectly. And then turned out I didn't get the gig. And I tried to find out why. And I said, I didn't really have the right feel for it. And I said, wow. So I had to sit on the bed and think, Dale, there's so much you really don't know. You may have a doctorate, but it's just the beginning of you really understanding music. So there's so much to learn, and it really taught me about our incredible world.
It's so true, Dale. Thank you. You know, I've had similar humbling experiences in my forays into trying to play various styles with authentic musicians, and it's been a real learning process. And it makes you really check yourself and go back and start over. You know, in some ways, it's a good thing. So, Dale, what are your thoughts on cultural appropriation?
To answer the question for me about appropriation of music and that use, comes to me in the journeys I've taken as a classically trained violinist, by my musical experiences, where I've been able to witness the depth of music in two ways. One, in a wide way, by world music, and historically by music of previous times. Growing up in Germany, of American parents, I felt both German and American, and yet also perhaps neither. Through music, however, I could participate as a world citizen, and in all of its music, both historical and in terms of wherever it is from the world. I just needed an open heart and an open ear and a willingness to understand my own culture and the cultures still unknown to me. When Dvorak, Bartók, Debussy adapted the feelings of music from other peoples, they did not necessarily use the exact instruments or the ornamentations as found in the performances of the original versions. However, their use of these melodies, rhythms, and character, and perhaps even only the timbres, brought an incredible new appreciation of our world beyond the borders known previously. The examples of appropriation of music can be found from the very beginning of music history. It shows the depth of our shared humanity and life on this planet. What is being done here in the fusion of musical styles is exactly this kind of appreciation of how separate cultures have blessed our whole world. Without looking for these cultures and for this music, we would never know this or understand them or the music. Going forth, it's truly what our world desperately needs.
I want to just thank you so much for coming on the show today and being part of the music with us and sharing all these wonderful instruments that you play with our audience. So remember, think globally, listen locally, and support independent music.